A tragedy of immense proportions has struck the aviation world, marking one of the darkest days in India's flight history. Hundreds of lives have been lost in a catastrophic incident that is being described by aviation experts as potentially the worst air disaster in India's recent memory. The horror unfolded shortly after takeoff, leaving families shattered and the entire nation in mourning. The Air India flight, bound for London, departed from Ahmedabad with 242 passengers and 12 crew members on board. The aircraft involved was the Boeing 787, Dreamliner model celebrated for its safety record and cutting-edge technology. Just moments after it lifted off, the plane ascended a few hundred feet before it suddenly plummeted. Eyewitnesses describe a terrifying scene as the aircraft transformed into a massive fireball, offering virtually no chance of survival. What's even more alarming is that this wasn't a case of an inexperienced flight crew. The aircraft was being piloted by seasoned professionals Captain Sumit Harwal, with over 8,200 flying hours, and co-pilot Clive Kundor, who had logged 1,100 hours. Despite their expertise, something went terribly wrong. ATC reports confirmed the plane took off at 1:39 p.m. and issued a mayday call shortly after. But when air traffic control attempted to respond, there was no further communication, only silence, followed by an explosion. This disaster has garnered international attention, not just because of its scale, but due to the aircraft involved. The Dreamliner had, until now, never experienced a fatal crash of this magnitude. While the aircraft has had minor incidents involving engine issues or electrical faults, this marks the first total loss, what the industry calls a hull loss. According to data from Flightradar24, the aircraft barely reached 625 feet before descending rapidly. Considering the airport's elevation is already 200 feet above sea level, the jet essentially only climbed 400 feet before falling. Questions are mounting. How could such a technologically advanced aircraft fall from the sky in broad daylight under perfect weather conditions? Early reports indicate that former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani was among the passengers. And, sadly, no survivors have been confirmed. Even worse, the plane's crash site added to the devastation. It came down in Magani, directly impacting the prestigious BJ Medical College during lunchtime. Dozens of students were in the mess hall, and initial estimates suggest that around 50 to 60 people on the ground also perished, bringing the total death toll to nearly 3. Doctors on site were faced with an unbearable irony, treating the wounded, while knowing many of their own students were among the victims. The emotional and psychological toll of such a double tragedy is immeasurable. Air India has officially confirmed that Flight AI171, headed to London's Gatwick Airport, was involved in an accident shortly after takeoff. Even the British Prime Minister has weighed in, expressing condolences and acknowledging the international dimension of this catastrophe. There's no denying the scene was apocalyptic. The aircraft, fully loaded with fuel, burst into flames so quickly that escape was nearly impossible. Investigations are now intensifying, with hopes resting on the aircraft's black box. Fortunately, initial visuals show the tail section intact, where the flight data recorder is housed. Experts are optimistic that it will yield crucial clues. Was there a mechanical failure, pilot error, or an issue with aircraft design? One theory gaining traction is dual-engine failure, a highly unusual occurrence, especially given the ideal flying conditions. Commercial aircraft like the Dreamliner are designed to continue flying even if one engine fails. Pilots train extensively for such situations. However, losing both engines simultaneously points to a rare and catastrophic event, possibly a bird strike that hit both engines right after takeoff. This explanation is being seriously considered, especially since the plane only managed to climb a few hundred feet before crashing. Yet, other possibilities cannot be ruled out. Was there a critical pilot error during takeoff? Was there an issue with flap settings or an overload of fuel? Poor visibility and lightning have been ruled out. There's even speculation about sabotage, though no evidence has emerged to support that theory. Ultimately, the focus remains on two major areas: potential mechanical failure and human error. It's worth remembering that the takeoff phase is the most vulnerable moment in any flight. Recovery time is minimal, And any serious issue, whether it's pilot disorientation or a systems malfunction, can lead to irreversible consequences. History bears witness to this. For instance, in 1987, Air India Flight 855 crashed into the Arabian Sea shortly after takeoff from Mumbai, killing 213 people due to faulty instrumentation and pilot spatial disorientation. In 1993, another Air India aircraft struck a truck during takeoff from Ahmedabad, resulting in 55 fatalities. Similarly, in 2000, Alliance Air Flight 7412 crashed near Patna due to engine failure and poor flight recovery. Globally, the aviation industry has seen its share of similar disasters. The 2000 crash of Air France Flight 4590, the Concorde, due to debris on the runway, killed 113 and ended the era of super. In the U.S., American Airlines Flight 587 crashed just minutes after takeoff from JFK due to aggressive rudder use, killing 265 people. And in Spain, Spanair Flight 5022 failed to take off correctly due to flap misconfiguration in 2008, leading to 154 deaths. These examples show how critical the takeoff window is and how often it becomes the stage for tragedies. Now the question arises, is this the deadliest aviation accident in Indian history? Numerically, the 1996 Charki-Dadri mid-air collision near Delhi remains the worst, with 349 deaths. However, that involved a Saudi and a Kazakh aircraft. Today's crash involves an Indian airline, an Indian aircraft, and hundreds of Indian lives, making it possibly the most devastating event for the country's own aviation industry. Naturally, Boeing is under scrutiny. Although the 787 Dreamliner has an excellent safety record, Boeing has faced a growing list of concerns over the years. Whistleblowers have previously accused the company of taking shortcuts during manufacturing. In fact, engineer Sam Salapur told the New York Times that Boeing allegedly ignored structural flaws and forced parts together with minimal oversight, potentially compromising the aircraft's integrity over time. If this is what led to the catastrophic failure, Boeing may have a long road ahead. But the accountability doesn't end there. Since the Tata Group took over Air India, there's been hope for revival, but also reports highlighting ongoing maintenance issues. From broken toilets and malfunctioning screens to underperforming air conditioning systems, while passengers share part of the blame for poor behavior, the bigger concern now is whether these technical faults extended to core aircraft maintenance. Did safety protocols get compromised in the process? Grounding the Dreamliner fleet might be considered until the root cause is found. Is it a maintenance issue, a Boeing defect, or a lapse by the pilots? These are the questions that must be answered swiftly and transparently. As someone who personally covered the 2010 crash of Air India Express Flight 812 in Mangalore, I know the emotional toll such disasters take. That incident also involved poor runway conditions and inadequate braking, resulting in 160 deaths. It took days to retrieve the black box. This time, let's hope the process is quicker, more efficient, and yields answers soon. This is more than a national tragedy. It's an international crisis that has shaken the reputation of Indian aviation. The loss of hundreds of lives, including bright young students, demands accountability. Whether the fault lies with Boeing, Air India, or regulatory oversight, we must confront the truth. Because only by doing so can we ensure that such a catastrophe never repeats itself.